All right, folks, we're back. That's right. We're back to working on the 1971 C-10 in Spanish gold and the 1968 C-10 in bright white. Jumping around a little bit. Got a lot to cover today. Let me grab some gloves. Get some gloves on. Keep your hands clean, folks. That way Sunday dinner you don't look like a grub. It's all good. It helps me from scratching and cutting my hands all up. Anyhow, while I'm putting these on, I have to find my glasses too, but time to dive into the 1971 C-10 in Spanish gold. I miss saying that. The reason I say it's time to dig back into it is, well, it doesn't run. Told you guys I was going to cover this at a later date. I'm gonna start covering it a little bit now. In the last video I do on the Holley Sniper, I'll encompass everything. So you guys that come every week, you'll get it as I go, and then a recap at the end. What I ran into, the only issues I'm having with the vehicle at all, the 71 Cheyenne, is I do have that dipstick leak after you don't drive it 3-4 days. All the fluid will settle down out of the torque converter and it will temporarily overfill it. But the dipstick tube, evidently it needs a new seal, so that runs out on the ground. Very irritating, but hey, just got to drive it more often. If you drive it every 3 days, you're fine. Mainly what I run into is I had went to a friend's house and it wouldn't start. And we monkeyed around with it, couldn't figure anything wrong with it. I finally put the pedal to the metal. You can say that on these old trucks. Not pedal to the wood, because it's not that old. And not pedal to the plastic, because it's before those days. Anyhow, pedal to the metal, hold it right to the floor and crank on, and it would finally catch and run really bad. And leave a little bit of smoke out the tailpipe, which was overfueling. As it turns out, I'll get you in here closer because we might as well cover this part first. It was overfueling bad. So what I've done, we'll go over to the truck in a minute. What I've done is I've taken this fuel injection system out of the truck. Now it is Holley Sniper EFI. This one happens to be the, I don't know, the bronze colored one. Now, I generally like to buy remanufactured or, I don't know, factory redone stuff because they go through everything. Somebody had a problem with it, and then they send it back, and the manufacturer goes through everything. And generally, they put new injectors in it, and they check the butterflies and go through everything to make sure it's all in order. And this is what we come up with. I'll show you the screen, but this is a good injector. What I mean is that I found out through leaning under the hood and looking in this, having somebody rotate the key on, that all the injectors gave it a little squirt, but this passenger rear one just sprayed nonstop, just full blast. So much it couldn't get through the butterfly, it would actually fill this back barrel right full. Then, of course, all that gas goes in your motor, which goes into your oil. So I have an oil change, filter change, all that to still do, all because of this. Anyhow, what I found was this injector, and I'll show you the numbers on them in case they say, looking this up, that all the injectors for these are the same, regardless of the model, which I find to be very interesting. Even the Terminator X, which is quite a bit more money. There is one Terminator X Pro something that uses a different injector. I'm assuming it's for the 454s or the big motors. But all the rest of them use these, I believe it's 100-pound injectors. I don't know how that works. How would you get variable? I just noticed something here. How would you get a different performance out of different fuel injection systems? It must be my idle. That front one's cracked just a little bit. Probably the idle. I'm getting sidetracked. But you take that for what it's worth. Here's the injectors. Get you in here close. Maybe you can even see the number on them. I want you to see it in case you care. But there's the injection number. Maybe you can get in there and zoom in on it. But to order it, it's 522-101X. That's not the number it's on the injector, which I find interesting. But matter of fact, I haven't had a chance to look to see if these are It looks like the top number is the same. It's a 250R 169A, but the lower numbers are different. So I assume that's a build number. Bottom line is, here's what I come up with. I've taken all 4 injectors out here on the table. The good injector is in this hand, and the injector was blowing full blast is in this hand. Now, I don't know if it's the electronics telling this, which would be a bad ECU, telling us to squirt full blast, or if it's something else. I've heard if they get dirt in them, then somehow, I don't understand how they work. The plungers don't work right, and it will do this as well. Now, I run 2 fuel filters on this truck. I run one of them clear see-through type dealy bobs because I use the original tank. Now, I use the original tank because they're $300 delivered. Okay, maybe I should have spent the money and had a clean, brand new tank. In hindsight's 2020, I probably should have, and I could have saved the old tank, rinsed it out, and put it in something else. But the injectors are only $63 and not the end of the world. What I come up with is, and there's no way you're going to be able to see this, I had to put a light on it and really look at it close, but I'm going to try to get you in. They have a screen, a very small screen down inside of them. And I don't know if you can really see that, but anyhow, when I took out the first injector, I was just curious. I have 2 filters, we got that, but you never know. And I looked in there and I could see that screen in there. So all I did was flip it over, tap it into my hand, and the screen come out. I'm like, well, that's pretty cool. It looked clean. It might have had a little discoloration near the bottom. So I sprayed some parts cleaner through it. Now, since then, I've used this rag. But I did get a little of this copper, it might even be rust, just powder that it caught, which means some smaller than that could have got through. Okay, I get it. But all the other 3 injectors I took out, I can't get that thing out of there. I've done all this. I've got inside there with a little poker without ripping the screen, tried to catch the edge of it. And what I noticed was these have a copper ring around them. You see that copper ring on there? And it appears, and it's plastic inside of it. It's all plastic, the rest of it. It appears they drop this in. Again, I don't manufacture these, but what I see is when you drop that in, it fits nicely and it looks right. These do not. All 3 of the other ones are in there kind of crooked. And all I can figure is there's some tool they put in here and give that a mash to make sure it seals good around the edges and doesn't come back out, which it's not going to come out and go anywhere. I assume it's for sealing purposes. If this one hadn't been mashed in there properly, then some of that tiniest little debris could have got past that screen. Now, I'm assuming the screen, again, just logic and dealing with these things in life, the screen only lets through particles that are small enough to go through the injector itself. That way it wouldn't plug them up. But if this screen wasn't properly put in there, that could have been our issue. Again, for $63, I'm not calling Holley and telling them that they're the worst company that ever lived or any of that, but it's a little disappointing. I'm going to keep this fuel injector because that's what we do. But I'm going to order a new one. I'm going to put them both back in here on the bench. Oh, that's loud. Sorry. As you can see, I got her tore apart. Well, I got a half back together, but this is what you get, by taking it out. I won't do it again. You may have never noticed all these wires. I mean, there's all kinds of wires that come out of this. But in my truck, I had them all routed, tucked away, and hidden. And that caused me about an extra 15 minutes of cutting zip ties and pulling things all back apart. I didn't want to do it in the truck the first time because I've never done it before. Just not always a good idea flinging parts under the hood. But now I see it, I can pull it apart inside the vehicle. I won't tear it out again. So if you're doing one of these and you ever run into an injection problem, I guess I wouldn't tell you to shy away from it. You can take it apart in the vehicle. That, and I was curious about our fuel pressure regulator, but I'm not taking that apart. So I took it out. Is what it is. Let's go over to the truck real quick. No, I ain't got that hood done yet. Quit asking. Oh, I turned my fan off. Got my fire going. The fan just makes a bunch of noise. I'm going to show you this got Michigan, it's cold out. Got me a little fire going here, keeping the shop warm. Isn't that pretty? I think it's pretty. Anyhow, enough about fire. Back over to your truck. So taking that out, this is after one summer of driving this thing around, and I've enjoyed driving it. Yeah, it's got a little, dirt and grime on it. I'm not going to rub on it because it's scratchy. But for the most part, it's pretty clean. I'm pretty happy with it. I drive it on gravel roads. I do all that. But everything looks pretty good together. The intake is clean as a whistle. It's a good time to come in and tighten all your nuts and bolts. I did have a little bit of oil on my firewall, and it looks like it misted on there from somewhere. If you recall, I had a matching red filter here on the back of this Moroso rocker cover. And I did notice at one time there was a little oil dripping down the rocker cover. So I got rid of that and bought one of these. Well, this is a cheap, cheesy, non-stamped one, but it works just fine. So that has eliminated that problem. But I have a little bit of oil on the back on that side, and I can't figure out where it came from. It's just the lightest film of oil, but it's gotten dirt and stuff on it, so it looks crappy. But I'll wash that off. I'll go through, tighten down all my header bolts, which, by the way, I haven't had a leak yet. But I am using ARP bolts, and I strongly suggest them if you're going to run headers. Use you some good quality bolts. They don't have to be ARP, but that's the ones I like. You can crank the living snot out of them, so you get things tight. But I'll double check all my rocker covers and everything and wipe down my firewall. Wanted to show you that. Everything's in good shape. I'm very happy. My belts and all that. If you watch those videos of getting the belts all in line, I did have one just a little bit out after I started the truck. It was just wearing on one side of a belt. It was just off a little bit, but that's all it takes. So I had an adjustment to make on one of them. That's fine. Everything else is really good. No antifreeze leaks, no nothing. It's been really, really good. I've enjoyed the truck. Hopefully you guys will get you one and enjoy it too. Of course, then you won't be watching my videos quite so much because you'll be out driving around in your c-10. and I hope you do. I really do. Anyhow, I do have a little rust coming on this master cylinder. They really are a bear to paint because brake fluid just eats paint alive. So I'll try and touch that up. I don't like that. But other than that, everything else is pretty doggone good here. So let's go to the 68. Too many tools. I should have left that injector on there. Hindsight's 2020, right? It's all good. I don't mind taking stuff out. It's nice to work on a bench anyway. But I want to show you what we're doing here, what I've been doing here. I was going to do some work with you, but I went and started all my work before the video. You recall this well, you can't see nothing. You recall this whole thing. What I've finally gotten around to here, and then I'll take you to the wiring harness. I know you guys don't love wiring, but we'll just cover it quickly. I have removed all the wiring. This one wire left just goes to the cigarette lighter. I removed all the wiring from the dash completely. Got it out of there. The only wire left in the truck, other than that little tiny short one, is the one that goes to the back for the dome light. You don't want to push that out, pull that out, because then you'll be fishing a new one in. And it was in great shape. I went ahead and wrapped it with electrical tape. That's what I do to everything. Here we go, flashy do. All these lights. I got every light on in the shop, so it might be a little too bright today. I got the seam sealer up in there. I got this scrubbed down. I got a better idea what I have to do on this floor. But I wanted to put this rocker on this week, and I ran into more trouble with that. And that's okay. I'll cover that real quick, and then we'll talk about our boxes and all. I'm going to get the tar out today and start tarring. I actually got it out over there already. I'm going to start tarring in this box here, bottom side, inside, before I seal this up. I'm going to get that tarred real good so no water rusts any further in the cab. Get that done. But on the rocker, while we're here, I don't know, nothing but move you today. On this rocker, what we've run into, and I think I figured out why, but again, whys aren't always important. Let's just do it. So here's this rocker we got. Oh, I got it sitting there for you. And it has one dent in it. I'm going to try to hammer that out a little bit better on it. Being that it's in my hand, I can smooth that out a little more so I don't like using body filler if I don't have to. What we have to do for fitment purposes, I'm going to have to cut. This is the bottom of the rocker. This would be the door. So I got it flipped upside down. Down here, we can't see it, and it doesn't matter. I'm going to split this about halfway down. And I have to spread it out and just put a super slim triangle in here and then weld it all back up, both sides. So it's a ton of welding for this little bit of something, but it has to be done. What has happened, or at least I think what's happened, is if I take this rocker and I try and put it, I gotta tilt you down again, and I try to put it where it belongs, it fits nicely, don't get me wrong. And it won't stay, I don't have my clamps and all that ready. But you can get it, there it is, you can get it in there and it fits really good. The problem we run into, and I'll tip you down one more time, basically it's set in there, I'm gonna lean my hip on it to keep it in. The front is fit good. Everything fits really nice. This is going to be awesome once we get this far. I'm going to feel like we're really making some progress. But what I want to show you, and this is one of those things you just run into sometimes. You get all this light and all that white. But if you can see, and I'll show you with a screwdriver. Got me a scraper. Where this rocker comes down and meets into the cab corner, there's a lip right there. Now watch this. You don't want that. Because I know you can't see it so much, but you can tell I'm running this right down along the side of this, and then it hits back in there. And I'll get you in closer before we go back over to the next thing. If you leave that protrusion on that rear quarter panel, why would I call it a quarter panel? On the cab corner, the first gravel road you get down, it's going to just beat the living tar out of your paint. I shouldn't use tar because I talk about tar. Whenever a stone is flying at, who knows, 50 miles an hour, and it comes to an abrupt stop on metal, that's a pretty hard hit, and it's going to chip your paint. And I've seen people do this body work, and it looks fantastic leaving the shop, but you drive it down one gravel road, and all the paint's gone down here. Or you drive it on blacktop for a month. Doesn't matter. Either way, it rips off all your paint. So let's see if I can get you closer. Got you on a tripod, so this might be difficult. But basically, can I get you in there? I want you to see it before we go. Right in here. You see how that sticking out right there? Maybe you can. But that's not going to stick. I'm not going to leave it like that. That will beat all the paint off of that edge. And then you can seam seal it. Here, I'll set you back up. You can seam seal it, and that's fine. It may not rust, but it's still going to knock that paint off of that corner. It's going to look bad. So that is where, I'm going to pull this off now. When we flip this over, what we do is you split this bottom right here and push this back just a little bit. I don't know, 1/4 inch maybe it'll take, which will pull this entire thing out, even with that cab corner. Now you're thinking, well, it won't fit right. No, that's how you make it fit right. Right now, I can put the rocker in and line it up with this cab corner on this inside lip. The problem would be I'd have a gap between these two pieces of metal down here, your pinch weld, because these will get squoze together. Yeah, me in English and how that goes. And there'll be a gap, and you'll have to pull metal out of the way or out of its comfort zone, putting stressors where you don't need it, and then this gap will be off. It's just not a good idea. I'm going to fix the rocker to fit this cab corner. It's part of working on old vehicles. If it was all brand new, everything would fit right perfect, and you just bolt together and be done. But that's what's holding me up on that outer rocker, and I really want to get that done, but won't be today. And while we're here, the last part of this, we might come back here today if we have time. When you undercoat this, whatever you choose on the inside of this inner rocker, same thing with the inside of the outer rocker, I'm going to use tar. But remember, if you tar this right to the bottom, then when you go to, well, I'm not going to pinch weld it. I'm going to use body panel bond. You won't be able to bond to that tar. So think ahead, run you a piece of tape down there on the bottom 1/4 inch. Then when you put your bead of panel bond on there, you'll have something to bond to, It'll seal completely. It won't allow it to rust. It won't allow water to get in there. So those two will work together rather than trying to stick to something that's not sticky. So just think of those things. I hadn't mentioned that in the past. Let's move over to this next thing. I got it here on my propane tank. It's just convenient. I try to find whatever works best. What I've done when I pulled out the wiring is to take a break and do something different rather than just to work on the same body parts all day long every day. It gets boring. What I've got here is the fuse box. And I just wanted to show you what I'm doing and how I do this. This is the old fuse box, and I've retaped all this wire. And the reason I do this is it's a place to hold my multimeter. Kind of holds the wire nicely where I can let go of it. A bench will work, but then it's sliding around on you. This is what I use. So what I've done here, I got all my tools here from last night, is you can see these particular fuses are pretty clean and nice. Well, that's the ones I've cleaned up. This one, these last three, you see they're quite rusty. What I do, I'll just do one with you. I'll do this worst one. I don't really want to. I'll do the better one so we can make it quick. Get in here with a screwdriver and pry these out. Now, I broke, I think 3 of them doing this. Maybe one of them was already broke. I'm not for sure. But if you just pry them out gently, they should stay together. If they don't, they're super cheap still. Just replace them. Just pry them out of there like that. Wiggle them, work them. They are glass, so try not to beat on them. Some of you guys are wondering why I'm not putting in a new modern day fuse box. Well, we are. We're going to put in both. Going to leave all the original wiring original. That's going to run your lights, brake lights, tail lights, turn signals, all this. Now, wait a minute. If you notice, I'll show you this one. It's probably fine, and I wouldn't have to throw it away, but I twisted one end of it. I don't know that they're normally glued on there. And that is a 20 amp, so it's probably fine, but in good shape. The ends are clean. I'll set that on the bench. But where was I? Oh, so this will run maybe the air conditioner. I don't remember. No, I want to talk to you and I want you to see everything at the same time. I don't remember if the 68 even offered air conditioning, but maybe this is a later fuse box. I don't know what's been done to this truck. I should look into that. This is my specialty. I should know all this, but I don't know everything. Crying out loud. They're good. So the air conditioning, the heater, that's most of the time that's a heater, like the blower, and then this would be the actual air conditioning compressor. But it's the gauge clusters, tail stop light, brake light, dome light, all this stuff is in this fuse box. Then I put that fancy fuse box I showed you before, and I'll show you again when we get to it, that lights up when the fuses burn out. Super handy, they're super cool. We'll use that for the new stuff we put in. I'm not doing power door locks and power windows for him. This would be a 2-year build, and it's just, that's not going to happen on this build. I don't remember if I ever showed that on my other one. I might have had that done before I started my channel. When I do the next truck, and I will do another one, I will put power door locks in it. I like power door locks. They're super handy. It's just nice. More modern features. I'm just scraping these down. They're made out of metal, and they're usually pretty tough. I've never seen them rusted completely out. If they are, just get a new fuse box. But I just scratch all the rust, clean them up real good. Oh, I keep sidetracking. I'm in the middle of talking and I change gears. I feel like I'm a dentist right now, cleaning teeth. I know Tom's going to have a fancy radio in it, so it'll probably require a little more power than I want to put through this. The power door locks, power windows, radio, air conditioning, that'll all go in a new fuse box. We'll have totally separate wires for that. They'll all be in their own separate main harness, so that if you ever have issues with anything, you can basically look at the wiring diagram, figure out which harness you're going to deal with, and you're not dealing with every wire in the entire truck. And if you ever had to take this to somebody to get it worked on, at least everything that's required to make the vehicle run and drive, lights work and everything, would be just as the original manual would show. So there's one of them done. Now what I use, and be careful, don't always do what I do, but I use this premium carbon conductive grease. 84, 81 if you care. That carbon will help these circuits because they're older and rustier. It'll help the continuity between them. The reason I warn you on this stuff is if you just put in bunches of it, and we all want to do that, and you get this across a couple of, even a plastic part, it doesn't matter. Because of that carbon, I use a chip brush to just get it around in there good. But that carbon conductive grease will create a connection even across plastic, paper, concrete, doesn't really matter. It will be like a liquid wire, if you will, because it's conductive. So it's just something you have to really be careful with. Wipe stuff off. Make sure you don't have this stuff everywhere. Use minimal. And just take both fingers, 2 thumbs, and just snap those right back in there. You'll hear it click in. It's in good shape. Then just because I'm paranoid and I'm using this carbon-based stuff, I'll wipe it down one more time. Make sure there's no extra conductivity anywhere. If you don't want to use this, and it's expensive, I don't know, 20 some bucks a tube. If you're a little bit apprehensive about using it, I don't blame you. If you're worried about using it, don't. Instead, just grab yourself, I got a tube right here. Just grab yourself a tube of dielectric grease. Oh, it doesn't have to be this brand, any brand. But it comes out, it's basically silicone. It comes out as clear or yellow. You can rub that around on things. It's not going to help it be conductive, but it's an anti-corrosive. So that's super handy. So last thing I do after doing, usually I do it all at the end, but I'm showing you guys just one, is check the continuity between both ends of this fuse. Now you don't want to touch the fuse to do that. You want to hook it behind the metal on one side and the metal on the other. And I'm looking at my meter and I have kind of continuity. What that's showing is that there's a connection from the fuse to the metal on both sides, and you're not making the connection, just checking the fuse. There'll be no sense in that. We want to make sure we have a good connection between both sides. And, well, are we? Get that in there, get that in there. And yes, we have perfect continuity. I'll do the other two off camera later, and this will be done. And don't get me wrong, I say this will be done. Well, the fuse box will. I've got this far, but I still have to sort through this end. And I certainly won't make you guys suffer through that. And I'll do that off camera. What I do, and I highly suggest, when you work on these vehicles, take the time, get the wiring harness out. That's my suggestion. And I go through every wire and basically test continuity from one end to the other. Find the corresponding wire, your blue, brown, and green. Check it at one end of the wire and check in the fuse box. Same thing with all these in the back. Find the big heavy red one, check in the fuse box, and check it at the other end. Now is the time when it's on the bench, it's in your hands. It's easy to fix any bad wires. Make sure they're all good working order. All right, enough about lecturing on that. We still got one more thing? I can't even remember. We were going to go over there. Now I forgot. Wiring 71. Yeah, you've seen enough on that. Let's get over here before we go. And we're out of time again. How do we always out of time? Yeah, we got a couple minutes. Take it back over to 68 here. Now, I usually use just one of these cheap, buy them anywhere, wood handle brushes. Good tar. Oh, this is better than the last tar. A little thicker. And just something to think about here. I just watched a video of a guy getting his arm all tarred up, doing something different. You want to, again, just thinking ahead can really save you a lot of headache. Going in this box like this, if I start on this edge, and then later I get up in here, I'm like, oh, I want to get up in here. Well, yeah, up in there, best I can. Get some tar up, and now I got that all over my fingers. And if you have to go deeper, it's on your arm. So just plan ahead best you can. Believe me, I've forgot plenty of times and got my arm all in the tar. But I want to coat this front from the inside. I'm just going to take my brush in there. You ain't got to see what you're doing. Just goob that tar in there. It ain't going to hurt nothing. Look at there. I got more windshield wiper parts coming out. Now I got it on my handle. You see that? It's trying to make me look stupid. Always on camera. I don't usually have these issues off of camera. Trying to embarrass me in front of my friends. By the way, I don't thank people for joining every week usually, but as it turns out, I have a few more viewers this week too. Next week, I'll mention the names that YouTube shows me. I can't think of them off the top of my head. Thank you guys for liking, subscribing. That means a lot to me. Helps the channel. Seems like more people could enjoy this. It just seems like it'd be more fun. I don't know. I don't get paid for it. Not looking to get paid for it. My head in your way? Well, it's not about you. Oh, boy. And your questions and comments are fun. That's just something I do at night when I'm sitting in the chair, having me a good evening coffee. Look over the comments and questions. And believe me, I've been asked questions I don't know the answer to. And I like those the best. Because I can go look up the answer, get back to you, and then we both learn something. Now, I would say you can't overdo this tar, but it will drip out on the floor if that bothers you. I'll put down some cardboard before I leave tonight. I don't care if it drips out. This stuff is cheap, and it works really good. So the more the better. I guess I got that pretty good. You guys having fun? Because I know I am. I've been waiting for this part for a couple weeks. Just haven't got to it. I feel like I should have cut more out. Then I'd have more to fix. Never mind. I don't want to do that. This is in pretty good shape. I didn't show you the back of the truck, but I'm going to tar the back of it just like my 71. I'll probably just do that again off camera, and I'll show you guys next week. This does have a drain hole in the bottom, so you can get down here and move this stuff around good. You want to go to the back and catch that before we have to go? I'll come back here and do this some more after I shut off the video. Yeah, I'll take you back there and show what we did real quick. Oh, we are just plumb out of time. We're having too much fun. So I fixed the bottom of all this. The video is just going to turn off on me eventually. But that way you guys can watch it right to the end. Thanks for coming. Thanks for subscribing. And all here, check this out. I'm going to tar this bottom part. If you remember, it was kind of rusty, but I fixed it all up and I got some primer on it. So I'm going to come down here with my tar first. I'm just going to do this entire bottom, mainly because this is where they've welded it. And it's got a little more bumps in it. I mean, I used a little filler, but you don't have to use a lot. You just brush this tar in there. And I'll get this whole back covered with that. And then we'll spray tar this entire, from these ribs down, and this will all blend together nicely. So I'll just keep working on that. I got to walk back and forth for my tar. I guess I can move it back there. But this, by far, is my favorite undercoating. Definitely for the money as well. You can work it right in there. It's going to seal 100%. Doesn't have to be heavy. Just has to have a solid coating. Make it too heavy, it will sag and drip on you. We're going to have plenty of time out here in the shop to let this dry. So the quicker you can get to the tar, kind of the better. When you're working on a project, it gives it more time to cure up and not be sticky. And it will dry off. We'll show that again. It won't rub off on your arms or nothing. This is the shebang right here. All right, folks, I'm going to let you go. Thanks for coming. We'll see you next week. All right, bye.